Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. And we are going to have a very, very interesting conversation today. So I cannot wait for all of you guys to get engaged and for us to have a meaningful conversation that's going to talk about brain chemistry and gratitude and how all of that comes together to help us make successful. One of the things we want to start off with is take a step back and think about why we have the theme of Goldilocks and why it's important for us to keep that front and center. Remember reading Goldilocks as a child? I don't know if gentlemen read it when they're little boys, but us girls, we read it, right? And so the imagery that is in my mind about Goldilocks is the fact that she doesn't like anything too hot. She doesn't like anything too cold, right? She doesn't want the seat or the bed too hard. She doesn't want anything too soft. She just wants things perfectly right. And that centeredness, that balance is the theme of the show. And everything we talk about as we take a workshop approach to this and find meaningful ways that we can grow and we can influence folks around us so that we live our purpose, we are going to hold each other accountable and support each other in keeping that centeredness. Why is that centeredness important? In life, imagine if you come from an extreme end of either side. Perfect time to, take a snapshot of American politics. You got a group of people on the extreme right, you have a group of people on the extreme left. They're all talking past each other, nothing constructive happens, right? In a family, in a workplace, in a relationship, when people have staked out their extreme positions, there is no place to have a conversation. There's no place to learn and grow. And there's no place or opportunity to influence one another. Research shows that everybody has the ability to influence 3 levels from where they are. So if I'm the CEO of the company, I don't have any peers, everybody else reports to me, I can only influence 3 levels down. If I am a entry-level employee, I have a peer group, so I can influence my peer group, and I can potentially influence maximum 3 levels up. So if I'm at the bottom of the rung, I have 4 degrees of influence. If I'm at the top of the rung, I only have 3 degrees of influence. But what if I build an organization? What if I build a society? What if I build a family where everybody has the opportunity to lead from wherever they are? And we build a very strong team of influencers and leaders in the middle. Then we can all influence where we are, 3 levels up, 3 levels down. All of a sudden, we have 7 degrees of influence. And change happens because we're able to influence. And we can only accomplish our purpose and live our purposeful life if we can influence change and bring about what we want to see in our lives, right? So keeping that in mind, we're going to continue to have our conversations this week, next week, holding centeredness as our center of gravity. And today, our focus is on how do we unlock the power of gratitude and why? Why is it important? So I'm actually going to start off with sharing my gratitude with all of you for making last week and the journey towards last week getting my book published a joyous one. It was extremely successful. It was such a collaborative, fun ride that I took with all of you, my friends, my relationships of 30 plus years. And I cannot be happier and more grateful than I feel right now. And so thank you. Thank you for showing up for me. Thank you for being a part of this fun ride. And thank you for buying the book, reading it, talking with me about it. And with your help and with the influence of the entire network I have, we have become #1 bestseller in 9 countries, which is not common. And in 55 categories, which I'm told is truly remarkable because normally people hit, bestseller in only about 20 to 30 categories. And so this has
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And to me, this is truly a show and tell about how, if we build relationships from the point of influence, how everything can fall into place. And yes, I wrote the book, but I could not have made it a bestseller on my own, right? And the network that showed up, the relationships that showed up, because of the strength of what is there, that is what gratitude allows us to do. Gratitude allows us to recognize what's working, what has made us successful, and it allows us to replicate it. And think of gratitude as the fertilizer you're using in your garden. The imagery I use here, you see me in my younger version watering the garden and the flowers are blooming. To me, that imagery about everything that blooms are the relationships I've invested in, right? You're all part of my relationship. You're each a flower that blooms in my garden, right? So these relationships are nurtured by gratitude. Gratitude is the fertilizer. Kindness and compassion and empathy is what we water our garden with every day, every moment, so that we can help each other thrive. And in a network, when each other thrives, we all thrive. So if somebody loses a job, we're going to show up to help them find one job, right? If somebody is sick, somebody is going to make sure that, if nothing else, if you're not physically close, at least we can order online and have food delivered, right? So there are so many different ways we can show up for one another. And that's what gratitude allows us to do. It becomes the fertilizer to help us build what we are trying to build. The second element we always keep front and center for us is that we use the centeredness to find our purpose and live our purpose. And what is purpose? It's the intersection of what we love to, what each of us love to do, what each of us are great at, and what the world needs. When we find that sweet spot where that red star is, that is our purpose. And when we have our purpose, and you see, even that point of purpose is a central point, right? From that point of purpose, we influence, we continue to influence and nurture what we love. We continue to nurture and grow what we are good at. And we continue to give to the world what the world needs. And so from that center point, almost like a ripple, you throw a rock in water, a river or a pond, doesn't it have a ripple effect all the way around? That is what purpose does, and that is what centeredness does. From that point of center, it has a ripple effect and touches lives of others. And as it touches the lives of others, we have that much greater influence. Successful leaders know this. Leadership is not about telling people what to do, but leadership is about influencing people on how to accomplish things that we want to, and accomplishing it in a way that everybody wins. So as we think of this, how does gratitude play in our brains? I remember growing up as a child and going through some very, very difficult situations and wondering, why do people make choices they make? Why does life have to be so difficult? I grew up in a war. Some of you already know this. So when you're in the middle of a war and you're seeing adults fighting and you see your childhood being swept away and you find that all the other children are losing their childhood, you're kind of forced to sit back and wonder, why is all of this happening? How do I get past this? Because I still want to be a child. Do you know any child who doesn't want to be happy? Right? That is like the sole purpose of a child's existence, right? I want to be happy. If nothing else, just give me ice cream, right? So as a child, you are seeking that happiness. You're seeking to learn. You're seeking to fulfill that wonderment inside you. And so my quest started with reading, because people were too angry around me. I couldn't talk to anybody. So I would start reading. And what I started realizing through my reading is brain is a very unique and interesting machine. right? I'm going to use the term machine because it has the functionalities of a machine with processes. And it actually produces positive and negative brain chemistry. When you're in difficult situations, when each of us are in difficult situations, the brain goes into fight or flight mode. So it's the same mode we go into when we're in a hostile environment, whether it's work, in a family, or in society. If we feel threatened, if we feel somehow compromised, our brain goes into fight or flight mode. And we all know we get defensive. And it's almost like our reptilian brain comes into effect and we start automatically reverting to survival, right? But the human body is never meant to be in that flight or fight mode permanently. It creates the secretion of chemicals that allows you to survive that moment, but it was supposed to be momentary. When we live in toxic or challenging circumstances, we are forced to live that momentary adrenaline rush permanently. That's why people get lifestyle-related diseases, whether it's cancer, blood pressure, diabetes. All of this has been traced to be influenced by that negative chemistry and the negative environment. How many times you go to a doctor and the doctor says, you know what, we've done everything. Maybe you need to switch your job because this is too stressful for you, or something in your environment is not necessarily gelling, right? So how do we, if there is that negative chemistry, then what is the positive chemistry? Gratitude is the single most impactful positive chemistry producing emotion. And what gratitude does is increases dopamine. By increasing dopamine in our brain, it actually increases our level of happiness. And when we are happy, and we are comfortable and we feel safe, then our ability to learn, our ability to grow, our ability to be positive increases. So brain has a left and right side. The right side of the brain is what's causing all of these emotional feelings and the ability to influence emotion. So the right brain chemistry and the ability of gratitude to secrete that dopamine and increase happiness then affects our left brain of doing the things we do. So EQ and IQ. EQ is right brain, IQ is left brain. IQ is what we do, right? So all the things we do become accentuated, and it naturally propels us to success when we are happy and when we are in that happiness as a framework of surrounding. Do you know there are classes offered in universities to educate young people on how to be happy? It is the single most enrolled university course in the United States. Kind of makes me sad and happy all at the same time, that you have to go to college to learn how to be happy. And it is not organically something that happens as we grow up in our communities, in our households, in our school system, right? Think about it. Take a moment and think about what that means. It's like going somewhere to learn how to sleep, or going somewhere to learn how to breathe. Because just as natural as breathing is, wanting to be happy and wanting to be peace is a basic human need, right? Everything we do, that's why we do. Whatever we define our happiness to be, that's what we are seeking, right? The pursuit of happiness is the single largest human quest. But to have to go and learn how to be happy and not realizing till you go to college that there are ways you can trigger it, that kind of makes me sad, but at the same time makes me happy that there is a place to go and learn. And there is a possibility to learn and rewire and pivot to a point where you are driving your success. And when people say, you know what, when I make the first $1 million, I'll be happy. Or when I get this job, I will be happy. Or when I find my right life partner and I'm going to live the life I imagined I'm going to be happy. That's not how life works. Happiness doesn't come when you're successful. Successful people are already happy people. So kind of the cart and the horse, right? The horse leads the cart. Gratitude triggers happiness. Happiness drives success. And so knowing that sequence and understanding that becomes very, very valuable in being able to channel our emotions and channel our purpose so that we drive our own success. What is the added value of this? Gratitude is something I feel from the inside, right? Nobody can dictate to me what to feel thankful for. So gratitude, happiness, peace, these are all things we find inside of ourselves. Therefore, we don't need anybody else for it. If nothing else, it's good to go out there and just like you were saying, Steve, when we got on this show, it's going to be 40 and you're going to be out there doing yard work. And for us Northerners, 40 degrees is a day of heat wave. For Malaysians, it's way too cold, right? If it's over 32, we're wearing shorts and we're outdoors. The sun is shining, right? We're grateful for it.
You
Because
got to
from
take on the day
October
when you
to
have it.
April,
You got to take the day when you have it.
yes, from October to April, we're lucky if we see sunshine. We're lucky if we are in the 40s. So that alone is gratitude. Wow, I had such wonderful dinner. Oh my God, I watched such a cool show. These are also things to be grateful for, right? Oh my God, my friend from childhood thought about me and sent me a text. How sweet is that? Or I got a card in the mail. We don't do that anymore, but when you get a card, don't you get happy? There are lots of little things to be grateful for. The first bloom in the spring. You walk out there and actually something is alive. It's not all dark and gray. So finding joy in those little things and finding gratitude in all of that can start triggering that positivity for us. There's actually medical and psychological science that have proved through research that gratitude is truly, truly beneficial. And the 5 main ways gratitude becomes influential and beneficial to a person is it wires and fires new neural pathways so that the learning and growing happens in a continuous way for us to be successful. What else happens when we create new neural pathways? Dementia and Alzheimer's risks reduces, right? The trick to avoiding dementia and Alzheimer's as we get older is they say every year learn 3 new things. So I am going to learn to type and I'm going to learn to play the piano because I figure both of them will allow me to use all my fingers. I'm a 2-finger typist, so I'm like a hamster with 2 fingers going fast, right? So in my mind, those are the 2 things I want to learn because playing the music is going to make me happy and learning to type, I probably will make less noise and irritate less of my household while I'm typing, right? Because I can be like a piano player. But the more things I learn, the more neural connections I'm making. But if I'm grateful and happy, then I can learn it faster and I can learn it better. That's how that chemistry allows me to be successful. Have you found that when you're unhappy, everything you try to do goes wrong? When you're stressed, it's hard to make the right decision because you can't focus. When you have a boss or you work in an environment where people are finding fault with you constantly and nothing is ever good enough, or they accuse you of being too smart or too good, all of this negative stuff, right? You can't control that. But what we can do is turn inward and find things to be grateful about and fire those neurons and find ways to be successful. If that's not the environment, let's do other things, right? I'm not necessarily happy at work, but I need my job. But here are some other things I'm really great at. Let me build towards that, because when that becomes successful, I can switch my day job and my side job. I can do a switcheroo. It allows me to have those options, and it allows me the courage and allows me the willingness to try things, because I am not living in that fight or flight stress mode. The second thing gratitude helps us with is, obviously, it boosts our brain's feel-good hormones. When we are happy, everything looks perfect. Everybody is beautiful and everything around us seems so shiny. And that's a happy place to be. Who wants to live life like Mother of Sorrows? I don't. Nobody wants to. So how do we leverage gratitude to boost that feel-good hormone so that we are driving our own happiness? It's an inside job. It's not an outside job. We don't get it from outside. It also then allows us to start identifying what is causing that toxicity and negativity, and how do I exclude that from my life so that I live in this place of happiness and peace that is fueled by gratitude. And when we feel grateful, we actually feel kinder and gentler towards the others. We all know when we are stressed out, we lash out. And don't we lash out at the people we love the most? So having gratitude and feeling good reduces that stress, and therefore it allows us to show up in a more positive, kinder, gentler way. And as we show up kinder and gentler, we're able to build more lasting relationships. Because I am not focused on, I need to have these 10 things done, and I'm just ticking off the list, and I don't have the time to stop and see how you're feeling, or even stop and think about, am I being responsive to you? Am I even listening? How many times we go into somebody's office for a meeting and they called for the meeting, they want an update, but while you're talking, they are typing. There's nothing more disrespectful than that. What I do is I sit back and I say, okay, when you finish that, you let me know, or if we need to reschedule this, please let me know. And most of the time, it's your boss who does that. And you can already tell that they are living a highly stressful life. They are not happy. They are running from pillar to post. They are behaving that way because of their negative chemistry. And very soon you realize, maybe if our bosses are that way, maybe the organizational culture is toxic. And so if we want to survive in that atmosphere, we have to turn inwards and draw. And the way we draw it is through gratitude. And then when you're happy, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb because everybody else around you is unhappy. I remember one time I had gotten this really bad bronchial infection, and the doctor put me on hormones because after 2 months, I still couldn't shake it. And the side effect of that was I was going to be grouchy. I remember telling my boss, if I am grouchy, just understand that for a week I'm on these meds. And my boss's reaction is she laughed and said, well, you're going to look like the rest of us. Welcome to the club. Right? I mean, that was sad. And my response was, if I am really like that, please shoot me. Please shoot me, because I don't want to be that. Right? And so you will stand out when you're a happy person in the workplace, but that's okay. Guess what? If you're happy, you have good food and you have good music, people gravitate towards you. Those are 3 things that are universal. You don't even need the language to understand and gravitate towards that. So we have an opportunity to use that as a way to attract people to us and influence, so that we get to accomplish our shared purpose. And gratitude is also an antidote to fear and worry. Fear and worry are two things that continuously drive us. We're afraid certain things are going to happen or not going to happen. And then we worry about what's going to happen down the road. And when we are afraid and we are worried, we are focused on what's going to go wrong in the future. And we are drawing from all the things that happened and went wrong in the past. So we are taking our past and projecting it to the future, and we are not living the moment. But gratitude happens only when we live in the moment and we are aware of the moment and we embrace that moment. And by doing that, we are becoming mindful, and therefore we're able to put our fear and worry aside. And a fearless, worryless person feels invincible. It's like having Jedi powers, right? And you're so stoked, you're so pumped, you can get this done. And everybody who says you can't, they're going to watch and they're going to learn, right? Because you have that confidence that you're going to make it happen. And the fifth element, the benefit of gratitude, is that it builds resilience. It gives us a blueprint of how to continue to overcome what's in our way. In my book, I tell a story. My sister and I, we were in India, school had closed, and we didn't have any volunteer work that week to go into a rural community and do something. Because when we went into rural communities to do work, then we had something to do and we had a place to be. We couldn't go back home to Sri Lanka because it was war. And we had friends, a friend had invited us to come over and stay, and I was going to make Sri Lankan food and we were just going to have fun. But the father decided, oh my God, you are such a bad influence culturally. Sri Lankan women are very independent. Indian women are very docile. You take your cues from the men, you walk 10 steps behind the men. That's how culture works. Even though we look very much alike, Sri Lanka is a very matriarchal society. Culturally, women took multiple husbands. We don't take a last name. We are not a father or husband's property, whereas in India, everything is the other way around. Even at marriage, the girl gets married and goes to the boy's home to live with the boy's parents in India, whereas in Sri Lanka, the boy comes into the girl's house. The center of gravity and the focus is on the girl and the girl's family, and the support for the woman and the societal strength that a woman is afforded. So obviously I was very, very different, even though I looked the same. And my friend's father decided that I was a bad influence, not only on his daughter, I was making her independent. Somehow the way I was enticing his sons. So he actually literally threw my sister and I out of the house at 10 o'clock at night. Okay, what do? I'm like 18 years old. I have a 16-year-old sister. Where do we go? And as a foreign student with assets frozen in Sri Lanka, there is no way to get money. And the little money I had was what I made by teaching. So I check into this hotel where I knew the owner. I could pay him partially now and I'll pay the rest later. So got accommodation, but how do we eat? So went to the grocery store, I got milk and I got eggs because those two were cheap. Then I'm figuring out we can't eat raw eggs. My sister can eat raw eggs. I can't eat raw eggs. How do we do this? And then it occurred to me that, you know what? Every bathroom has a heater. So I told my sister, let's both have a nice hot shower. Take our turns, empty the heater. We moved the chair into the bathroom where the heater was. We climbed and we put all the eggs in the water heater once it was empty. And then we let the water heat up again. So every time we wanted to eat, we had a bath, we put the eggs in the heater and we let the water heat the eggs. And then, so we had a bath before cooking the eggs and we had a bath before eating because we had to get the eggs out of the hot water. and we can't put our hands in, right? Why do I bring the story up? When you are grateful for not being killed, not being shot at, having a roof over your head, all of a sudden you start figuring these creative, goofy ways to make things work. It didn't matter what people thought about our ingenious idea, but I was very grateful that we both had protein to eat and we had milk to drink, right? What more do we want? We had a nice, warm, safe place to go to sleep, and we had food. So that weekend, that's what we did. Oh my God, we ate so much egg. And you can go to a restaurant and get those little packets of ketchup and mustard and whatever, and you take an egg and you put it on it and you eat it. And now you have your spices too. The beauty of gratitude is it truly gives you the resiliency to deal with weird and challenging situations. And it gives you ideas to overcome struggle. Think about what kind of superpower gratitude is then. And it is not something we need to count on somebody else to have. It is something we can draw from within. I have always kept a gratitude journal because it's helped me go back and think through and figure things out. And it has been my single largest source of strength and my single largest source of growth. And what I tend to do is every night I look at what happened, what went right, what went wrong, how did it impact me? Why am I grateful? Even when something bad happened, I forced myself to dissect that situation and look for something constructive from it. When I was in school in India, and we call it the hostel, in America you call it the dorm. So the first 2 years I stayed in the dorm because I was alone. My sister was still back in Sri Lanka. And the nun who ran the dorm, we call them the warden. I know it's prison warden in America, but in Asia, warden is the term used for the person who runs the dorms and the housing. And Sister Juanita, she was a Carmelite nun, she had a big sign on her door. It says, "All my visitors bring me happiness, some by coming and the others by going." So she's grateful for all her visitors because some are coming into her life and some are permanently leaving. Every time I walked by, because her office was 2 doors from my room that I shared with 3 other girls, every time I walked by, my self-talk is, please God, don't let me be the one she's happy to see go. Who wants to be that person that everybody is happy that either you died or you left? That is sad. It propelled me to start thinking about, oh, even in bad situations, there is a rainbow to be found. What is that? You know what they say? Relationships either make us and teach us what to be, or are our biggest lessons of what to avoid. And I learned to take those lessons, what to avoid, what not to be. The worst people I have met in life have taught me how not to be. Because I don't ever want to make other people feel the way those people made me feel. And I'm grateful for that opportunity, because had I not experienced it, I would never know. Kind of like the kid who looks at the fire and says, oh my God, that is shiny. It feels warm. It feels cozy. And then I put my finger in and then I scream. And then I never go that close to it again. I've learned my lesson. Being able to see the good in the negative situations is what builds us resilience. It's what is helping us rewire our brain and start reflecting on, how do I take this and turn it on the dime? So take a moment and think about something that happened and what it taught you. How did it change you? And how did it propel you to become a better version of you? Think about that for a minute. Feel free to share. I would love to hear.
I'll go ahead and start. That's what I do.
Go ahead, Ariane.
For me, it comes back to my adoption story,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, it got worse before it got better.
Yes.
I took myself down a spiral. I think I talked about that last 2 weeks.
Yes.
But I took myself down like a horrible spiral of my life being a lie, nobody loving me not being worth it, and just a bunch of self-talk that did not do me any good. And then years after I spoke to the person who donated stuff so I could be created, he told me it was never my fault. And that kind of gave me the reassurance that I needed, which I now realize that I never needed that. I could have known if someone told me or taught me far earlier that it was never my fault. But it took quite some years, because I found out when I was 10, then they told me officially when I was 15. So I had already built a strong foundation of hurt and brokenness and hate and anger and so much that afterwards, when I did realize, like last year or this year or something like that, when I started realizing that it was all like a self-talk, a story that I made in my head, and none of it was true, I was like, wow. I was just like, wow. So it definitely got worse before it got better, but the point is we got to the better.
Yes.
And now I could use that as an influence to like show other people that yes, it may seem like your world is ending, but it's just the perspective of which you're looking at it. Because I never missed a meal in my life. I never knew if my mom had money struggles. I never knew what it felt like to not have, or I never knew what it was to just eat cornflakes and milk, or just a bread and coffee. I always had a full blown breakfast, full blown lunch, full blown dinner. I don't know what it is to miss anything. And then I don't know what it is to have my mom outside of the house working either, because she was always there. She made sure she took me to school, picked me up from school, made sure she was so involved in my life. And for me as a child to see all of this in front of me and still have the audacity to be like, my life is a lie, I'm not loved, I'm not worth it, everybody hates me, not realizing how much blessings I actually had in front of me. Because how many children have their mom there, like the whole school thingy for 8, 9 years? No one can really say that. And I had so much. And I was so rich. My childhood was like the richest out of, I don't know, one in, I will not even do a ratio, but I guess you guys get what I'm saying.
Yes.
So yeah, I was so blessed, but I was blind to it. I was completely blind to it because I didn't know better. But now that I know better, I'm like, oh, so I could probably share my story now and make other people realize that yes, you're struggling, but hey, what's the blessing? Because there's always a blessing. I'm the blessing, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Ariane. And you have realized and you are noticing what a happy person you have become once you've come out of the other end of this journey. And it is a journey that only you can take. Other people can't make you take it.
I have one more thing to add. Gratitude did change my life because I had this whole hate thing going on. And then back in 2018, I found the book, The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. And it's a 28-day challenge. I did not do the 28 days, but I did do the negative situation challenge. And everything I wrote, it was, you were supposed to write the negative situation you're in, and then 10 ways this situation changed, right? In the present moment. And every single thing I wrote for this situation shifted completely. And it did have to do with my relationship with my mom. And now my mom is literally my best friend. Like, that's how powerful gratitude is. And this is years of me not having an actual relationship with her and us living in the same house, but we didn't have that mother-daughter connection. And I always thought it was because I was adopted. But honestly, it was my perspective on it, because I guess she always wanted it, but because neither of us approached it in such a way, that's why it worked out the way it did. But I'm happy it did, because now I can appreciate it and be like, now I can get to know her, and now she's literally my best friend. So it works out.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else wants to share?
Yeah, I'll share. I mean, for me, it's not just this week, but it's probably most weeks. As a couple of you on the call know, I'm unemployed, but I'm grateful because I have good health. I have a lovely family. I have a house. I live in a great area. We're safe. And what's really interesting is I actually appreciate the time that I have that I haven't had in a long time. So I'm making the best of it. You know, there's only so much travel you could do with COVID, but we are going to places where it's safe by car, and we like the outdoors. So my family and I, we've been doing a lot of that. Financially, I'm in a situation we planned well. College educations are paid for, and let's see, and Kristen, you know this, I got a new dog, so I had a lot of time to train the dog. We adopted him, and he's actually progressed well, so that would have been more challenging had I been working. And you know, you realize that a career is important, and a career you could have value because it can be enjoyable, but for a lot of us, sometimes it's just a matter of having an income to get by, okay? But I could get beyond all that. I mean, there's so much more in life to take advantage of that sometimes the job will get in the way. So, you know, in a weird way, I have felt grateful to have so many months off where I could take advantage of the things that I couldn't do if I was running into an office every day.
That's true. Thank you for sharing that, Steve.
Yep.
And how does gratitude help? We'll build on each person's story as we go. How does gratitude actually help us? When we start our journey with gratitude and kindness, it's amazing how the universe just presents all of these solutions and the right people at the right time for things to happen. And it will happen at the right time. Why? Because we are living in the moment, we're being mindful, we are going to pick up on things, and we are going to make those connections because we are showing up in that positive, caring, kind, and gentle way. I mean, if you're a happy person, don't you get told your entire life how lucky you are that everything you do is a success? And then you're thinking to yourself, luck has nothing to do with it. I work at it every day, and I invest in these relationships because we are successful because we're there for each other, right? That's the internal conversation you're having, but you can't tell that to anybody. And those of us in corporate careers, we are being sometimes told that kindness and gratitude is actually not business skills. And if you show those, somehow you're weak. When people ask me why I feel I'm successful or how I define success, to me, this is what success is. Being unapologetically grateful and daring to be kind in a world that views these two as weakness, to be able to live that way, to embrace it and own it, and be able to shine with it and say, now you put that on a pipe and smoke it in a very nice, subtle way, to me, that is triumph. To me, that is success, because this is my life that my God gave me, and I'm going to live it my way, celebrating with kindness and with gratitude. And no outsider is going to take that away from me. And nobody gets to come and tell me that that doesn't belong in a workplace. Because anybody who tells me that is actually an unhappy person who's constantly worried and wants to constantly angry about things. And what they don't like about me is my ability to influence people, and they don't like the power of that influence. It's scary. Every power can be taken away from us except the power of influence. And the only reason we have the power of influence is because of our kindness, our compassion, our empathy, and the grace with which we navigate life. And all of that happens because we embrace gratitude. Anytime somebody tells me I am too kind to be a finance executive, I always laugh and I say, okay, time out. Let's unpack that. I am a human being who happens to be a finance executive. I'm not a finance executive who happens to be kind. Because if that's the case, then there are finance executives who are Martians, finance executives who are jerks, right? Jerk is a gender neutral word. Is there a feminine version of that? So kindness is part of our humanity. It is who we are. Being a finance executive is what I do. And what I do doesn't turn me into something I'm not. Who I am makes what I do successful. So this is the conversation I have. Invariably, in every organization, after a few years, they're like, oh my God, why are you always so happy? Why are you always so positive? And somehow that tends to bother people. So I chalk it up to, I can only give you a hug and say, someday you will understand. Right? Because there's nothing I can do for them other than feel sorry for them. And the way I live and the way I make choices for them to watch and learn. I can't make them learn. I can't take that journey for them. They have to want to do it. And the beautiful, go ahead, Kristen.
Can I add a quick story?
Yes, go ahead.
So actually I have, I'm grateful to Steve because he sought me out. I told everyone the story about my dry cleaners, you know, when I worked at the dry cleaners on Saturdays. Steve, 4 years ago, sought me out at the dry cleaners to recruit me to go to our company now. And it was such a happy change. And then I'm grateful to Steve because he was not only a great boss, but he's a great friend. So like, you know, it all comes full circle, and it's true when you really like are grateful, like everything does work out, and it does drive success. And even talking about COVID, as sad and as hard as it's been, I've also enjoyed so much the time being home. I've gotten back to reading, you know, all the books, you know, learning inner growth stuff, and spending time with my dog, and I've like changed my eating habits, and I just feel like overall better. So for such a terrible thing that's happening in our world right now, I have found like the really beautiful upside to it, and I feel better than I've felt in years from just being stuck at home. So
that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Steve, because it takes two, right? Somebody creates the environment for somebody to thrive, and that other person is grateful. And now all of a sudden, there is a relationship that is going to be there for the rest of your lives, and you have influenced each other, and you're going to have each other, a part of each other in you forever, right? We all live through the lives we touch.
Thanks. But I want to add to something like that. And I think Kristen sort of alluded to the fact that it's a two-way road. So Kristen was hired by me because, one, you know, my interaction in the past was I always thought she was a nice person and capable. So that's kind of the, you know, I guess you want to call it maybe soft skills. But in terms of her technical expertise, I knew she was very good at what she had done and what I needed to hire her for, because I heard that through people she worked, including her former manager, had told me how great she was. So, again, sometimes, you have gratitude, and I think Kristen just told it, but sometimes you have to earn it. So, in the example that Kristen gave is probably a good example where she earned the gratitude. It wasn't something that just came out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Can we have a little love fest now?
Yeah.
Yes. That's the beautiful thing, right? People building each other up. Now, just full disclosure, Kristen, Steve, and I have worked together, and if I saw Alejandro join, if Alejandro is still here, Alejandro also worked with us, okay? So we're all part of the same team in different geographies, different countries, and we've traveled and worked together. But not everywhere do we find coworkers who care. Now, the company we work for manufacture in the South. The places where they have plants, people like me don't exist. When I had to go for meetings there, and Steve was part of those meetings, what was the first thing Steve would do? Cass, these are the flights I'm booking. I've checked, you have flights from Chicago. You're gonna land at the same time, so don't rent a car. I'll drive you. That way I know for a fact you're safe. Isn't that a beautiful thing when somebody you work with thinks through that? He's consciously aware the risk of me putting myself in a situation, and then plans his entire trip around it and is being mindful. We go to meals together, and all of a sudden the relationship that was there is already stronger, right? The same way when I see situations where I need to step in and make it better for him, we do. That's what relationships do, right? You're kind, you're compassionate, you're thoughtful, you're empathetic, and bad things never come of that. Bad things never come of that. When the intentions are good and our heart is in the right place, it always works out. And I always say, don't work for people you cannot respect or trust or care for. Nothing constructive is going to come from it. And in the first 10 minutes if you're going to enjoy being around these people or not. If you take a job to take a job, continue to look for a job, you're going to be happy. Right? Because sometimes you have to do certain things to put a roof over your head. You take the job you get so that you find the job you need and want, right? So don't forget the fact that we all feed off of each other. It is a circle, and what we give comes back to us, and karma is instantaneous. And gratitude helps us build resiliency because we are recognizing the moments and we are living a life of humanity, basically. And therefore, we are holding space for other people, and we're including people, and we are caring for people. And therefore, everything we try to do works out. So with that said, I truly want to open up to have conversations about what are your thoughts on gratitude? What do you want to talk about gratitude, and how gratitude has helped you and is continuing to help you? And also talk about where can we find gratitude if you're struggling, and how we can help each other, because this is also a safe space for us. And we help each other, right? That's what we do here.
So can I add one more thing? So when we talk about like what Steve said about me working so hard to prove myself, I think in the corporate world, I do go above and beyond because I am so grateful for the opportunity to work in corporate when I dropped out of college. So, society says you shouldn't be able to have a job in corporate without a college degree. So I think because of that, I'm so grateful for that opportunity. I push myself every day. So that's why Steve heard about me, because I'm grateful.
Thank you for that, Kristen. Have any of you been in situations that are really, really negative and struggle to see what's good in it? Anybody wants to share that? Because sharing situations or stories, sometimes heartbreaking moments, can actually be very revealing for us. Alexa, your voice is muted, my dear. We can't hear you. Is your volume up? Is your volume up?
Alexa, you probably have to dial in over internet call. Do you have an option at the bottom where it says mute or stop video? Do you have a dial in? If it says dial in, you just press and call on internet.
Okay, it's unmuted on your end, but it's showing up here as you're muted.
Sometimes there's in settings for the mic,
Yeah,
there's volume for the mic. If you go in settings and there's a volume, you could sometimes turn that up.
the speaker on the side of the computer.
Well, not the speaker, it's for the mic. So there's one for the sound and one for the mic. Let me go in my settings. Oh,
Yeah, like the little arrow where it says mute, the little arrow next to that should bring up more options.
and there's also, if you go in settings, you go under audio, automatically adjust microphone volume. Maybe that might help. Or could call in. Yep, see that? Settings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her call is unmuted, but her microphone must be muted.
Yeah, but I see that it's off. So the image, the icon does not show her mic off. So she may even, so the settings are so don't, with Zoom, don't have it on the full screen right now. Put it on reduce it a little. And then you see in the upper right, there's an icon of a cog, like a gear. And if you go to settings there, I don't know if you see that. Nope.
It's like a widget. Do you see that, Alexa?
Yeah, probably the easiest thing to do is maybe just call on a mobile device if you can, but otherwise, and just talk through that. I'm convinced she has something very important to say because she's working hard at this.
Alexa, this little thing right here, see? I don't know if it's focusing, but it's the mic and then the little thing right there. You see it?
I think
that
she's
little
on the
arrow.
computer.
Yeah,
not
she's
the
on
phone.
the laptop or
On the
computer.
laptop.
It's on my screen too at the bottom. I know exactly what Ariane is showing. So if you hover over like the mute or unmute button, there's a little arrow right next to it. And if you click that arrow, it brings up all your settings.
Oh yeah, yep, you could go that way as well.
No pressure, Alexa.
But hey, we can all be grateful that we're learning where the settings are, right?
Yes, yes, always, always. So Miriam, we see you here. Is there anything you want to add? Any thoughts you want to add while Alexa gets her? voice activated, audio activated?
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yeah. I think honestly, what I could probably say is I'm still learning how to be grateful. I think I used to be much more grateful earlier when I was younger, but later on, I think I've become much more cynical. Now, listening to everybody, I feel I have a lot of things to sort of introspect on to kind of see what I can be grateful for. Yes, I think that's where I'm at currently.
Thank you, Miriam. Miriam is joining us from Sri Lanka, right?
Hi, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Miriam. And what Miriam said is true to all of us, right? We all go through a phase of cynicism because we go through disappointment and we go through certain things in life, and it's part of becoming an adult. So those of us who are older have had longer practice, right, Steve? You and I, we've had longer runway room to learn through all of this and go through our cycles of cynicism and gratefulness.
Yep, definitely. You know, the one thing I have also learned in life is when you feel the need to search for it, to be grateful. I mean, first of all, I think a lot of it is all around you. Sometimes you don't have to look far, but not that you should compare, but you look around, you compare yourself to maybe somebody else, or maybe, you know, think of, geez, I'm lucky I'm not in a country where there's war, or, you know, or I'm lucky that, you know, I'm not maybe one of the, whatever it is, 5 or 10% living in poverty. I mean, it's pretty easy to find sometimes to be grateful.
I live in the Chicago area, but believe it or not, people think America is this richest country in the world and we have everything. But there are pockets of Chicago which are called food deserts, meaning there is no access to fresh food, no vegetables, no fruit, no grocery stores. And it's socially engineered for these folks not to have access to that kind of food. And all they have is fast food. They don't have public transportation to get them where they need to go. So they live in these communities of high rises with no access to fresh food in the middle of this vibrant city. And they're obese, they have health issues, they can't find jobs because there's not only no food, there is no opportunity for employment either. And when you look around all of that, you have to be grateful. Hey, Alexa, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm gonna leave on here. There we go.
Beautiful.
I didn't mean to interrupt, so go ahead and finish what you're saying and then I'll share.
Okay. So even in vibrant cities of everything looking beautiful and accessible and so vibrant, we can still have people who don't have access to anything. Two things have to happen. We have to become aware of it, be grateful for what we have, and then we have to figure out how do we change that circumstance so that we do not have such a disparity in our community, so that some people are living large and we have enough food to throw away and other people don't even have access to real food. So mindfulness, kindness, compassion, all of that is possible when we are grateful for what we have and then look around us and see how blessed we are and then look for ways to pass on that blessing. Yes, Alexa.
It was a long journey to get here, but I've never had that issue with my computer. Okay, so this one makes my heart pound because I've been having a really hard time with this lately, and finding gratitude is very difficult. Although I do find it's keeping myself in that state of gratitude, which is where I'm struggling. And I just wrote this down actually before you asked this question, because it was running through my mind as to what I can do and change in the future. And essentially it's because you were talking about how you can find gratitude and lessons within a toxic environment or situation and whatnot. And for me, I'm so empathetic, and I see in the future and I feel everything in a certain way that it's taken me a long time to get to what I have right here to understand where I am. And it's when the one person that may be able to lighten the path is also the one creating the toxic environment. Now, my questions for myself have been, how do these two mix together, and how did I get into this situation, and what are the possible outcomes, and where's the solution? Because I want to heal this relationship, make it better, and find gratitude within it, and not be depleted by it and allowing myself to be defined by the situation, because this is my temporary living situation right now. But at the same time, every day I'm reminded of what isn't working for me and what I don't want for myself. And then I have to keep asking myself, or recreating my thinking as to why would I continue to focus on what I don't want, but at the same time, I have no control over it. So it's a really weird and odd place to be in. And it's hard to find gratitude every day when I have no control over how one other person lives or creates their environment and whatnot. But because I live here, I have to be in it and accept it and find gratitude. So that's something that I'm working with. But aside from that, I can find gratitude in literally anything, although it is a little challenging still. But this one specifically is that situation for me. So any guidance would be great. But again, I know time will heal this, and I will find my ways, and I just really kind of need somewhere else to go at this point. But it's a weird mixture for sure.
Thank you for sharing that, Alexa. Anybody has similar experience you can share and say how you came out the other end?
I don't know if my experience would kind of relate to it, but I kind of found my house to be a toxic environment when I was living in it growing up and stuff. And my way of dealing with things was just staying away from them. Because I feel like the moment you allow them to get into your energetic bubble, knowing the effect that they have on you, that's where they have a possibility to kind of trap you. But at the same time, you are the only one who has control over how you feel in the situation. And you have kind of like the choice to either try your best to step away and stay away for the time that you're there. And you also have the control of how you want to feel as well, because you can't feel two feelings at the same time, right? You either feel good or you feel sad. So you have the choice of feeling happy or feeling sad, of seeing the blessing or seeing the curse in a situation. It can't be both at the same time. And I could see that, I could see the sadness in your eyes when you talk about it. And I just want to give you like a big hug and tell you it's going to be okay. Because it will. It may suck right now, and it may like be hard to see the sunshine because I've been there, but just try your best to be grateful of the things that you do have, like your life, your smile. You have us now. We could be connected. You have people you can talk to. And we could find a way to like support each other and help each other, because we have to talk about the things that bother us so that we can also find solutions for them. So my advice would be just keep counting your blessings, keep focusing on the sunshine, keep focusing on the puppies, the birds, the trees, everything that brings you happiness, and just try your best to make a happy bubble for yourself, and also protect yourself. Make sure that every single day you call on your angels and have a bubble of protection around you. And just make sure that you ask them that wherever you go and wherever you may be, that only beings of light and love are welcome in your bubble, and only beings that will bring happiness to you be able to like influence you and be around you. Anything that doesn't serve you and isn't aligned with the divine plan for your life, have that stay away. Your angels will protect you, and your angels will guide you, and the magic will happen. Just believe and trust it will. And and you will see the situation changing.
Thank you
Changing.
so much, Ariane.
Yes, I do really like that, the bubble of protection. And this is something that I'm not familiar with too. And for some reason I bypass it because I'm so worked up in my environment that I forget. And that's another, there's so many layers to this, but on the surface level, that's kind of where I'm at. So thank you so much for that.
I'm happy to help. We can always connect on Instagram as well if you'd like a friend.
I actually did just find you on there, and I was going to find you after this, so I'm ahead of you already.
Yay, okay.
Kristen, were you going to say something too?
Yeah, I wanted to add to it. So Cassie said earlier, so happiness drives success. And from all the things I've learned, I think the way, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Okay. If we can visualize or approach even the most hardened individual, that can shift. Like, so the person that you're dealing with, like, as much as they're like frustrating you, our approach to it can actually help the situation change. Cass, can you help me say this right? I don't know.
Yes. So let me tell you a story for that, Alexa.
Okay.
So I'm going to draw from my own younger days. I grew up in the middle of a war. Every midnight, we will get military guys come and raid. And when they came and raided, they did bad things to the women in the house. And they made the men watch. And then they tortured the men. So this was not really a happy situation. This is, if they shot me, it would be better than all the other things they did to people. So one of the things I learned is no matter how scared I am, don't show it. So we leave the doors open so that they don't break it, because a broken door is access point for everybody else. So keep the windows and doors open so that if somebody comes, actually open the door and invite them in. And then my thing was, I make tea and I make them dinner and I tell them how tired they look, because I know just next door all the horrible things they did. But I can get them unfocused about me and get them focused on them. And by showing them kindness when they are there to harm me, can flip the switch in them. That was one of the single most important lessons I learned growing up in the middle of a war. By not making it about me and making it about them, I can pivot their frame of mind and truly get them to make it nobody is so caring in general that everything is about somebody else. In general, people show up from their selfish point of view, right? Even in my adult life, people ask me, how do you function in these crazy corporate world without stress? Because I know one thing to be true. Nobody has the time to think about me. Everybody is functioning in their own world, and it's all centered around themselves. So this person who is causing this much hurt and harm and anxiety for you, Alexa, this person is living inside their own world of themselves. It's them, their feelings, what they want, what they need. So they are not doing this to you. This is what they want for themselves, right? So don't make it about you. This is about them. This is who they are. And the minute I learned that how people show up has nothing to do with me, it is who they are. And all I can do is show up as me no matter how they show up. That's when I learned to take my power back. Because you can come with guns and you can come and threaten me to do whatever you want to do to me. But I'm still going to offer you tea and I'm still going to make you dinner at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's who I am. And what I have learned in life is when I can do that with people, I can actually switch my brain to make it about me too, right? Because I'm also in this point in time, being very selfish in some way, because I'm making it about me. I'm saying, you don't have a key to my happiness. You don't have a key to my peace. I am taking charge and I'm going to make it about me, because I am going to be happy no matter what it is you're trying to do to me. And then as a Hindu, I always think this, and I actually say this to people, the worst thing you can do is kill me. But unlike Christians, I'm not going to heaven or hell. I'm a Hindu, I'm coming back. I may be your pet, I may be your child, I may be your in-law. And when you go bankrupt, when your kid's heart is broken and your whole family is miserable, remember that was karma. So I actually jokingly say this to people, because it's a good way to remind people we don't know where life goes. And the only way I have found to deal with situations like this is to not give control to somebody else, but always take that power and own that power. Mahatma Gandhi says, I don't give you permission to make me feel demeaned. I don't give you permission to make me feel less than. I give myself permission to shine and be who I am and live my purpose. And when I came to that point in life, life started working out for me, because it was never about the other people. It's always about me. And some might say it's selfish. I would say it's more self-aware. And it's also giving the other, and people normally stop being miserable when they're not getting their way by being miserable. There's no point to it. It's like bullies, right? If you don't get coward, then they get bored and they go find somebody else, or they grow up. Was that where you wanted me to go, Kristen?
Yes, and I just think how your example of giving the soldiers the tea and dinner, how you got them to change their whole demeanor towards you and your family, to the point where didn't they like wish you luck when you were leaving and say
Yes,
goodbye?
yes.
And yeah,
The night I was leaving,
yeah.
they came to raid, and they're like, who's leaving, who's going? They were more upset that they're not going to get food from me anymore, right? In the middle of a war, two warring factions, we had built a relationship over food. And I had to look past the fact that they have done bad things to other people. And when I gave them at that point of time their humanity, and I met their humanity with kindness, then their humanity showed up.
And that was what spared you and your family too, right? Like they were much more kind to you versus the other people. Yeah. That's where, thank you for reiterating what I was trying to say.
Thank you, Kristen. So,
can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Rajan.
Just another story, I guess, about kindness. Like, I met this young boy, and he was very, like, there are times when he's very problematic, and I wasn't sure how to deal with it. And at those points, it made it very difficult for me. And rather than, well, the option I took was to, like, whenever he was like that, I would think something kind about him, or do something kind, or be nice to him. And not only did that change what he was doing, but when I did that, like, the frustration went away. It's hard being frustrated and doing something kind. Like the two don't mix that well inside. And like, one thing I've noticed is that if someone is constantly taking from you and taking, and they're just being in their own world, and you remain rigid, it continues, it doesn't change. But the minute you do something kind, the minute you do something different, like, it kind of, well, how would you say, like, it takes them back. And like, they'd have to take a step back and wonder why. Like, it's can't find the words, but it's like a surprise.
Yeah.
You know, and then it makes them aware that majority of the time they do become aware of, like, you know, there's something different, and maybe I could be this way towards you also, kind of like give and take.
And that's true. And ultimately, everybody is afraid of getting hurt. And everybody has this self-talk based on their childhood trauma and what their life has been. And then they show up in a way that they feel they need to protect themselves. And you can't make them take their armor away. They have to want to. But by showing kindness, what we are doing is we are disarming them. And we are telling them, it is okay. And I see the person in you. I see the humanity in you. And I'm going to give you nothing but kindness. But also remember, how we show up is a reflection of us. How other people show up is who they are. We can't change other people. We can only change us and our perspective. And when we are able to do that, we are in control of life and control of circumstances. And therefore, we are able to accomplish things. It's like saying, okay, I'm in the driver's seat, and it may be an automatic car, and I may be on that cruiser button, right? But I'm still on the driver's seat, in the driver's seat, and I can still drive to my destination. How do I stay in control? And kindness is one of those things where you can actually kill somebody of guilt with kindness. The nastier people are to me, I tend to be nicer to them because it becomes a battle of wills for me. You can be as jerky as you humanly possibly can, and I am going to be as sweet and kind as humanly possibly I can, because I know I can sustain kindness. I know you can't sustain meanness, because it's not the normal human state. And hopefully this conversation has helped us think about the importance of gratitude and find different ways to find that rainbow even when there is a thunderstorm coming. Are we going to, slip up and be miserable and be angry and upset? Sure. Why? We're human. And that's okay. None of us are perfect. If we were, we'll see wings around that person, right? And a halo above the head. None of us. I don't see that anywhere. Maybe Ariane has some light coming from there. She's sitting in front of a window. But we're all human.
I was going to tell you, this is my halo. But there is light coming from me.
And we're all human. We're all fallible, right? Nobody is asking us to be perfect. All we can do is be better today than we were yesterday, and we are being better for ourselves. And that is the journey we're on. And as we take that journey and as we go through our lives with gratitude, I cannot tell you enough how much life will change when we take that path of gratitude. I know my life wouldn't be what it is today if I hadn't taken that path of gratitude. And I am eternally grateful for all the individuals who've made my life possible. And those of you who've read my book will know already that people who shape us and people who give us that humanity are not the normal people we expect them to be. Right? It doesn't have to be somebody from your family. It doesn't have to be somebody highly educated or somebody you work for. Chances are these are everyday human beings that we interact with whose humanity is larger than their title and their business presence or their work presence, but it is who they are. If we can recognize people for who they are, then we create that many more opportunities for us to be grateful. And that's another lesson I've learned in life. Don't look for goodness in the wrong places. If people are focused on money and power and access, that is not the place where you're going to be able to draw from for kindness, humanity, empathy, any of that. People who can give that and make us better are people who are selfless, people who know what it is to love humanity. And that doesn't come from a place of ego. It comes from a place of humility. It comes from a place of service. and surround yourself with those people. We don't get to choose family, right? The only family member we get to choose is our spouse. That is if we're not from an arranged marriage culture. But there are relationships we can choose, and it's those relationships that are going to sustain us. And research shows that the quality of a woman's life is predicated on her sisterhood. The quality of a man's life is predicated on the wife. And that is an interesting contrast that research has revealed. So, gentlemen, those of you who have wonderful spouses, so happy for you. They are going to sustain you, and it works because you put into that relationship and you nurture that relationship. Ladies, no matter how much we have a life partner, a sisterhood, and brotherhood, if you have guy friends, that's also equally important. Our friendships are what sustain women. For men, it's that spousal relationship that sustains them. Keep finding the opportunities to be grateful. Keep supporting each other. And we will get back next week to talk about something as equally impactful. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being a part of Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. And go out there, change lives. Keep your transformation going, and be kind and gentle to one another. And I am so grateful to have every one of you as part of the show and in my life. Thank you so much.